At midnight, under the thin neon lights of a busy ER waiting room, a worried parent grips the plastic chair arms like they are the only solid things left in the world. The vending machine hums in the corner. Nurses move behind glass. A door opens, then closes, and every sound feels like it might carry an answer. Waiting can make the mind cruel. It takes one missing update and builds an entire future out of fear. It drags you out of the room, away from your breath, away from your body, away from the child you love, and throws you into 1,000 imagined tomorrows. But what if the real test is not knowing faster? What if the test is staying present while the answer has not arrived? This is where Zanshin begins, not as calm, but as attention returning to one small thing: the plastic chair arms beneath your hands. The worried parent does not look like a warrior. They look like someone in yesterday's clothes, sitting too straight in a plastic chair, staring at a door that refuses to open on command. One hand is wrapped around the chair arm. The other keeps reaching for a phone that has nothing new to say. Battery at 23%. No missed calls. No message from family that will make this room any easier to survive. Across the waiting room, a television plays without anyone really watching. A child coughs into a sleeve. A man in work boots leans forward with his elbows on his knees. Somewhere behind the desk, a printer spits out paper. The vending machine keeps humming, steady and indifferent, as if the whole night has been reduced to one flat electrical note. That hum becomes unbearable because nothing else is moving fast enough. This is the cruelty of waiting in a place like this. The body is trapped in one location, but the mind runs ahead without permission. It sprints past the nurse's face, past the doctor's update, past the next 5 minutes, and into a future no one has confirmed. It imagines the worst version of the hallway. The worst version of the phone call. The worst version of tomorrow morning. And because the parent loves deeply, the fear feels justified. That is what makes this kind of anxiety so convincing. It does not arrive wearing the face of weakness. It arrives wearing the face of responsibility. It says, if you are a good parent, you will worry harder. If you are paying attention, you will picture every danger. If you relax for even 1 second, you are betraying your child. So the parent grips the plastic chair arms tighter. The knuckles stiffen. The shoulders rise. The jaw locks. The eyes keep scanning every movement near the double doors, trying to read meaning into footsteps, badges, clipboards, expressions. A nurse walks quickly, and the mind says, "Is that about us?" A doctor speaks softly to another family, and the mind says, "Why not us?" Someone laughs quietly near the vending machine, and for a second the parent feels almost offended, as if the world should have the decency to stop making ordinary sounds. But the world does not stop. The ER keeps its own rhythm. Intake forms. Wheels rolling. Sneakers squeaking on polished floor. Doors opening for strangers. Names called that are not your child's name. Neon light reflected on the tile. The vending machine hum. The plastic chair arms pressing back against your palms. This is where the confrontation begins. Not between the parent and the hospital. Not between the parent and the staff. Not between hope and bad news. The real confrontation is between attention and imagination. Attention is sitting in the chair. Imagination is already living in disaster. Attention can feel the hard plastic under the hands. Imagination turns that plastic into the edge of a cliff. Attention can hear the vending machine hum. Imagination makes the hum sound like a countdown. Attention can see the actual room, tired people, fluorescent light, a desk, a door, a clock. Imagination keeps replacing the room with scenes that have not happened. And when imagination takes command, the present moment becomes almost invisible. The parent is physically there, but not fully there. They may be sitting 3 rooms away from the person they love, but their mind is lost in a future built from fear. They may want to be available, steady, ready to listen when the doctor finally appears. But anxiety has a way of spending the strength you will need later. It spends it on fake conversations. It spends it on imagined losses. It spends it on questions no one in that waiting room can answer yet. This is not stupidity. This is not weakness. This is the mind trying to protect what matters most, but using a tool that cuts the hand holding it. Zanshin offers a different tool. In the old sense, Zanshin means remaining mind. Lingering awareness. The kind of attention that does not collapse after the first movement, and does not rush ahead before the next one. But in a modern ER waiting room, Zanshin does not look dramatic. It does not look like a person floating above fear. It looks like a parent noticing that their hands are crushing the plastic chair arms, then loosening their grip by one small degree. That is all. One small degree. Not because the situation is safe. Not because the outcome is guaranteed. Not because fear has been defeated, but because the parent realizes that panic is not the same as presence. There is a difference between caring and spiraling. Caring keeps you available. Spiraling carries you away. A parent without discipline reacts to every sound as a verdict. The door opens, their breath stops. The phone vibrates, their whole body jumps. The clock changes by 1 minute, they feel cheated by time itself. The mind becomes a courtroom where every ordinary detail is forced to testify against the future. But a parent practicing Zanshin does something quieter. They still feel the fear. They still want the update. They still hate the waiting. But they begin to separate what is happening from what they are inventing. What is happening? Midnight in an ER waiting room. What is happening? Neon light, plastic chair arms, vending machine hum. What is happening? A doctor has not come out yet. What is invented? The entire future. That separation is not cold. It is merciful. It gives the parent back 1 inch of ground inside their own body. The shadow in this room is overwhelming anxiety about the future. It does not ask politely. It floods. It takes the unknown and fills it with sharp images. It makes the parent feel as if they must solve the next month, the next year, the rest of their child's life, while sitting under neon light at midnight with no information except the sound of a vending machine. And that is too much weight for one moment to carry. No human being is built to hold the entire future at once. So the mind breaks the future into fear. The body tightens around it. The hands grip the chair. The chest narrows. The eyes keep hunting for certainty in a place where certainty has not yet arrived. This is why waiting is an art. Not because waiting is peaceful. It often is not. Waiting can be ugly. It can make decent people short-tempered. It can make loving people suspicious. It can make a parent want to demand, interrupt, pace, refresh, accuse, bargain, and pray in the same minute. The art is not pretending that the room is calm. The art is refusing to let the unknown consume the only moment where you can still choose your posture. Zanshin begins with the smallest honest detail. The plastic chair arms are hard. The vending machine is humming. The lights are too bright for midnight. Your breath is shallow. Your child is not helped by your mind punishing itself with futures no one has handed you yet. That last sentence is difficult because fear will argue with it. Fear will say, if I stop imagining the worst, I am letting my guard down. But Zanshin is not letting your guard down. Zanshin is placing your guard where it belongs. Not in fantasy. In awareness. You cannot control the hallway by staring at it harder. You cannot force the doctor's footsteps by tightening your shoulders. You cannot protect your child by abandoning the present moment and moving into a future made of dread. But you can be ready. Ready to listen when the update comes. Ready to ask one clear question. Ready to hear the words without drowning them in panic. Ready to stand up without making the room absorb your fear. Ready to be the parent your child needs when the waiting ends. That readiness is not passive. It is disciplined. The world teaches people to confuse intensity with love. Especially parents. It says the more frantic you are, the more devoted you must be. But devotion that loses command can become another burden in the room. The child needs love, yes. But love with a steady face. Love that can receive information. Love that can make the next small decision. Love that does not turn fear into noise. In this ER vigil, the plastic chair arms become the first teacher. At first, they are something to grip because the parent feels like they are falling. Then, slowly, they become proof that the parent is still here. Still seated. Still breathing. Still able to return. The vending machine hum does not change. The neon light does not soften. The doctor still has not appeared. The waiting room remains what it is, tired, bright, uncomfortable, full of strangers carrying private storms. But inside the parent, a small line is drawn. The future may speak. It does not get to swallow the present. That is the confrontation. Not victory. Not peace. Not certainty. Just the first refusal to let anxiety wear the mask of love and take command of the night. Discipline does not begin after you feel calm. It begins in the first second you realize you are about to lose command. In that ER waiting room, the training is not on a mountain. It is not in silence. It is not after the doctor comes out with answers. It is here, at midnight, under neon lights that make everyone look more tired than they are, with the vending machine humming like it has been assigned to test your patience. The worried parent does not need a heroic speech. They need one small return. The first practice is to stop feeding the first reaction. When the double doors swing open, the parent feels the body rise before the mind has agreed. The chest tightens. The hands push against the plastic chair arms. The eyes search the doctor's face, the nurse's badge, the direction of every step. But before standing, before asking, before assuming, the parent makes one quiet move. They pause. Not for long. Just enough to reclaim the steering wheel. One breath in. One breath out. The pause is not weakness. The pause is command arriving before panic turns into behavior. Then the parent names the shadow without making it sacred. Not out loud. Not for the room. Just inside. This is fear of the future. Not truth. Not prophecy. Fear. That single sentence cuts the fog. The parent does not say, something terrible is happening. They say, my mind is trying to live ahead of the facts. That difference matters. One sentence throws them into the hallway of imagination. The other brings them back to the chair. The second practice is to anchor the body where the body actually is. The mind wants to run months ahead. The hands are still here. So the parent lowers both palms onto the plastic chair arms and feels the shape of them. The rounded edge. The cheap hardness. The faint warmth where their grip has been too tight. They loosen the fingers, then close them again with less force. Not gripping to survive. Touching to return. The chair arms become a boundary. They tell the parent, you are not in tomorrow. You are not in the doctor's sentence before it is spoken. You are here, in this waiting room, at this minute. The feet come next. Both soles flat on the floor. Not crossed. Not bouncing. Not ready to bolt at every sound. Flat. The parent presses the heels lightly into the tile and lets the shoulders drop a fraction. The body may not believe in calm yet, but it can obey a posture. Sometimes the body must lead the mind back like an older brother taking a child by the hand. The third practice is to choose one sound and stop fighting the room. The vending machine hum has been irritating because it keeps going while the parent's life feels suspended. But Zanshin does not demand a perfect environment. It uses the environment that exists. So the parent listens to the hum for 3 breaths. Not as a threat. As a metronome. Inhale while it hums. Exhale while it hums. Notice that it does not rise with fear. It does not fall with hope. It simply stays. The parent lets that steadiness become borrowed discipline. Around them, the ER continues. A phone rings. A chair scrapes. Someone whispers near the desk. The doors open again. But the parent returns to the hum, then the chair arms, then the floor. Sound. Touch. Ground. A small circuit. This is how attention survives a room built to scatter it. The fourth practice is to shrink the battle. Anxiety says, figure out the whole future now. Zanshin says, handle the next honest thing. The next honest thing may be drinking water because the mouth is dry. It may be checking the phone once, then putting it face down instead of refreshing every 30 seconds. It may be writing down one clear question for the doctor, not 10 panic questions that all mean, promise me nothing will hurt. The parent takes the phone, opens the Notes app, and writes. What do we know right now? What happens next? When should I expect another update? 3 questions. Clear. Human. Useful. This is not medical strategy. This is mental order. The parent is not trying to become the doctor. They are becoming someone who can listen to the doctor when the moment comes. That is a form of love most people do not praise because it is not dramatic. It does not pace. It does not raise its voice. It does not perform suffering for the room. It prepares to be useful. The 5th practice is to make the waiting ritual small enough to repeat. Every time the mind runs forward, the parent returns in the same order. Hands on the plastic chair arms. Feet on the floor. One breath with the vending machine hum. Name the fear. Choose the next honest thing. Again. Not perfectly. Not peacefully. Again. At 12:17, the doors open and it is not their update. Return. At 12:28, another family is called. Return. At 12:41, the phone buzzes with a message from a relative asking, any news? The parent wants to type a paragraph soaked in dread. Instead, they write, still waiting. I'll update when I know more. Return. At 12:52, the mind tries to build another future. It begins with 1 image, then 10. The parent catches the first one earlier this time. Not immediately. Earlier. That is training. The goal is not to never shake. The goal is to notice sooner when the shaking has taken command. A person waiting in fear often believes there are only 2 choices, collapse into panic or become cold. But samurai discipline offers a third path. Stay tender. Stay present. Do not let tenderness become chaos. The parent still loves fiercely. They still want the door to open. They still feel the ache of not knowing. But now that love has a shape. It sits upright. It breathes. It does not punish the nurses with suspicion. It does not turn strangers into enemies because they received news first. It does not treat every minute as proof of abandonment. It waits with form. That form is not decoration. It is protection. When the hands rest on the plastic chair arms instead of crushing them, the parent is teaching the body, we can be afraid without becoming ruled. When the feet stay on the floor, the parent is teaching the mind, we do not have to chase every imagined outcome. When the vending machine hum becomes a cue instead of an irritation, the parent is teaching attention. Even this ugly little sound can bring us back. When the written questions sit ready on the phone, the parent is teaching love, be prepared to serve the moment that actually arrives. And when the future storms back in, as it will, the parent does not insult themselves for losing focus. They return again. That is the hidden discipline of waiting. Not forcing peace. Returning without drama. The ER is still bright. The chairs are still uncomfortable. The update is still beyond the parent's control. But one thing has changed, the unknown no longer gets unlimited access to the mind. The parent has built a gate. Not a wall. A gate. Fear may enter. Love may ache. The body may tense. But attention stands there now, asking each thought a simple question. Are you happening now, or are you only pretending to be? Most thoughts will have no answer. So the parent breathes, feels the chair arms, listens to the hum, and waits like someone who has not surrendered the present to the future. At some point after midnight, the waiting room does not become quiet. That is important. The transformation is not that the ER suddenly turns into a peaceful place. The vending machine still hums. The neon lights still flatten every face into the same tired color. The television still mutters from the corner. Someone still shifts in a chair and sighs like they have been carrying the same hour for too long. The double doors still open for other people. The doctor still has not appeared. But the parent is no longer being dragged by every sound. Earlier, each movement in the room felt like a signal. A nurse crossing the hall became a warning. A phone vibration became a threat. The door opening became a verdict before anyone had spoken. The parent's whole body had been living 1 second away from alarm. Now the parent notices the same things without surrendering to them. The door opens. Breath stays. A name is called. Hands remain on the plastic chair arms. The vending machine hums. The parent hears it, not as insult, not as countdown, but as a thin line of sound running through the room. It is still ugly. Still mechanical. Still too loud for midnight. But it no longer owns the mind. This is what real change often looks like. Nothing cinematic happens outside. Something disciplined happens inside. The parent looks down and sees their own hands resting on the chair arms. At the beginning of the night, those plastic arms were being crushed like handles on a lifeboat. The grip had said, I am falling. I need something to hold before the future takes me. Now the hands are still there, but the meaning has changed. The chair arms are not proof of panic anymore. They are proof of return. Every time the mind ran forward, the hands brought it back. Every time fear dressed itself as certainty, the hands said, not yet. Stay here. Every time the parent began to live inside an imagined morning, the hard plastic under the palms reminded them that the only place they could be useful was this minute. That is Zanshin. Not empty calm. Remaining awareness. A mind that does not abandon the moment just because the moment is uncomfortable. The parent is still worried. Love has not been turned off. The heart has not been made into stone. They still look toward the hallway when footsteps come close. They still want the update with a force that almost hurts to hold. But now the wanting has posture. It sits upright. It breathes before it reacts. It leaves space for reality to arrive before imagination writes the ending. That space is small, but it is sacred in the most ordinary way. 1 second between sound and assumption. 1 breath between fear and speech. 1 pause between the body rising and the mind deciding whether rising is needed. A person without that space becomes a prisoner of whatever happens nearby. A person with that space becomes available. And availability is what the child will need when the waiting ends. Not a parent who has spent every ounce of strength fighting invisible futures. Not a parent so flooded by dread that the doctor's words cannot land. Not a parent who must be managed by everyone else in the room. A parent who can stand. A parent who can listen. A parent who can ask, "What do we know right now?" and hear the answer. That is not a small thing. In moments of uncertainty, many people believe love must look like panic. They believe fear is the proof. They believe if they are not breaking apart, they must not care enough. But the parent in the chair begins to understand something harder, and more honest. Panic may be loud, but presence is more useful. The ER continues around them. A family near the desk receives news and walks away with soft faces. Another person comes in wearing pajama pants and a jacket thrown over one shoulder. A nurse wipes down a counter. The clock changes again. The parent's phone lights up. Another message. Any update? This time, the thumb does not rush. The parent looks at the screen, then looks back at the hallway. They feel the old wave begin, the urge to explain too much, to spread the fear, to make someone else hold a piece of the unbearable unknown. Then the fingers settle. Still waiting. I'm here. I'll let you know when I know. That sentence would have been impossible an hour ago. Not because the words are special. Because the person typing them has changed relationship with the unknown. They are no longer trying to control the future by exhausting themselves in advance. They are keeping watch. There is a difference. Exhaustion says, if I suffer enough now, maybe I can pay for safety. Watchfulness says, I will stay awake to what is real, and I will meet the next moment when it arrives. This is the modern meaning of samurai discipline in a hospital waiting room. No armor. No blade. No ancient drama. Just a parent under bad lighting, learning that attention can be an act of love. The plastic chair arms hold the lesson. At first, they were a place to pour fear. In the middle, they became a tool for returning. Now, near the end of the vigil, they become a quiet measure of command. The parent can feel the body tense and still not obey every impulse. They can hear the vending machine and not resent the entire room for continuing to exist. They can look at the doors without demanding that the doors answer before their time. This is not surrender. It is discipline without violence. The parent is not forcing themselves to be fine. They are not shaming themselves for fear. They are not pretending the stakes are small. They are simply refusing to let overwhelming anxiety about the future become the only voice in charge. Then the hallway shifts. A doctor appears near the double doors. For 1 second, the old fear surges with full strength. The chest tightens. The hands press into the plastic chair arms. The room seems to narrow around the white coat, the tired eyes, the clipboard, the small movement of a hand. But now there is training in the body. The parent does not leap at the first shadow of meaning. They inhale. They stand. They bring the written questions with them. Their legs are not perfectly steady. Their face is not empty. Their love is visible. Their fear is visible too. But neither one is wild. The doctor begins to speak. The parent listens. That is the transformation. Not that fear disappeared. Not that the future became safe. Not that waiting became easy. The transformation is that the parent is present enough to meet what comes next without abandoning themselves before it arrives. And maybe that is the deepest art of waiting, to remain human without becoming scattered, to remain loving without becoming ruled, to remain awake in the exact room where uncertainty is trying to take your name. The vending machine keeps humming behind them. The plastic chair arms sit empty now. But the lesson has moved into the hands. Attention is how love stays ready. Someday, your waiting room may not look like an ER. It may be a kitchen table with bills spread open. A school hallway after a hard phone call. A parked car outside a courthouse. A midnight bedroom where everyone else is asleep and your mind is trying to live 10 years ahead. That is your vigil. And in that vigil, you will want certainty before you are given it. You will want the future to answer because the present feels too small to trust. But start smaller. Feel the chair beneath you. Hear the hum in the room. Put your feet on the floor. Ask only what can be known now. If this episode gave you one steady breath, carry it with you. Subscribe, return, and train the next waiting room before it trains you. The present moment becomes a blade only when attention gives it an edge.